Down here at the community garden plot, and it's time to dig up my potatoes. If you recall, I planted 2 plants and there was a volunteer down here as well. So we're going to dig them up. The plants are spent. It's time to get them out of the ground down here, because I do want to start preparing the ground for overwintering and get it into good shape for next year. I'm going to be cleaning up this plot maybe today and putting down a layer of compost and then covering it with hay. When I actually just walked up here, there was a big groundhog sitting right over there, so maybe that's what's been attacking my vegetables. But the corn's out and taken care of. All the kidney beans have been harvested and they're drying out, waiting to be shelled here. And these are the broccolis, the cabbages, the rutabagas. So there's a few more things here. This is actually the first time I've seen the garden in daylight in I don't know how long. So we do have a butternut squash here. And right over here, we have a pie pumpkin. And we've got another one way over there. Probably can't see it. So, looks like pumpkin plant here. Got 1 pumpkin. Pumpkin plant there, got 1 pumpkin. This one hasn't produced a pumpkin, and this one produced 1 butternut squash. We'll take it. So, looks like these are getting bit up. There's the rutabaga leaves. They got all little pinholes in them. So they're getting beat up. I'm gonna give them a good watering today. The leeks are drowning in weeds, but also with strawberries. These strawberries are spreading like crazy down here. They're really gonna need to be reined in. My tomatoes were all finished. They were in that spot right there. So I harvested the last of them and then took out the plants. So now these are my potato plants here. So I'm gonna dig them up and let's see what they got going. Oh, the melons that I planted down here, they're starting to grow finally, but they're not producing any melons. I haven't seen anything that looks like a melon yet. And it being so far along in the season, I should mention this is Labor Day weekend. I doubt they're gonna produce anything. They took a real long time to get started. I'm not sure what that was, but the leeks are looking good, starting to thicken up, getting a lot of nice growth on them. Hopefully we'll get a good set of leeks out of this. But let's get to digging up the potatoes. I got my garden fork with me, and I'm interested in seeing what, if anything, grew. Well, so far, I'm disappointed. I've broken up the ground. Haven't seen anything that looks like a potato yet. But we're gonna start getting down into it, and we'll find out if anything actually grew here. Now, this is the first thing I've pulled up. Massive harvest. So I'm gonna dig in a little bit further and see what we get. Okay, it's not stellar, but there are a few potatoes here. And maybe I shouldn't be so disappointed in their size, considering they were growing in the heat of summer. So that does weigh against a potato really forming anything of significance. But I'm going to dig in a little bit and see if I can find anything else. But that was, what, 2, 4, 6, 8 potatoes on there. And maybe if planted at an appropriate time of the year, rather than, what, July, I guess? Maybe they would have grown into something bigger. No, that was the extent of that one plant. So now I'm going to dig up the other 2. Okay, about the same, but a little bit bigger. These potatoes here. So not bad for a couple of leftover plants thrown in at the beginning of July. Those are 2, 4, a whole bunch of little ones. And we'll dig up the hole a little bit more. Although I found with that hole, it was just tight right around the roots where the potatoes formed. What I'm really interested in seeing is the volunteer plant and whether that produced any potatoes. Found 2 more small ones, but
This is the Sharpo Mira from the community garden plot, and not a bad little thing. I could probably use a lot of these potatoes to use as seed potatoes next year, the smaller egg-sized ones.
Well, it looks like a red potato was planted there.
Oh, this 2 potatoes. But let's see if there's anything more down there.
Nope, that was it, just those 2 potatoes. Well, I guess I could look at it as 2 free potatoes for nothing. For me not having to do any work with them. But they're perhaps a size that I could use to, again, use as a seed potato for next year. Although, maybe if they weren't so abundant this year, maybe they're not a good potato to grow. Now it can't hurt to try, right? Put them in buckets. That's what I'll do. But this isn't too bad. Like I said, there's 2 extra plants I had some space in the garden, planted them very late, so not bad. This community garden plot actually let me expand a bit. For next year, it's going to give me so much extra space to be able to plant. I've been thinking about pulling up these bed walls here, and so that way I have the entire length to plant in rows, just like a victory garden. As I said, that's what I'm going to be doing, is doing a victory garden next year. I'm following almost exactly a plan I found online for a 15 by 15 garden, which is what this is. So it'll be fun to see how that goes. Now, they don't offer a lot in that plan. It's more of like, I don't want to say a salad garden, but it's kind of like what it is a salad garden for, I think, a family of 4 for a year. So it's, tomatoes and lettuce and some kohlrabi and cabbages. There's no potatoes, there's no corn or anything like that included, no squashes. So, as I said, it's mostly a salad garden for a family of 4 for a year. We are going to be tweaking that a little bit, putting our own twist on it, but we're going to see how closely we can follow that plan. So as I said, that's why I want to dig up these beds so I can plant in rows. But I'm still thinking about that. So what I'm going to do now is clear that up, get rid of the weeds that are left in there. I've got a couple of buckets of compost from the chicken coop. I'm going to be spreading that down. And then over the top of that, I'm going to be laying a thick mulch of seeding straw that should not have any weed seeds really in it, and it'll protect the soil, and hopefully the deep mulch will prevent weeds from coming through next year. And during the growing season, I'm going to have to keep the ground thickly mulched as well. Okay, we put about an inch or so of compost on top. Now I'll just put the straw on top of that. It's a slow building process. When I started the bed, I put about an inch of compost down. Now I'm putting another inch of compost down, and then the straw on top. That'll break down pretty quickly, I believe, over the winter. And next year, at the end of the season, put another layer of compost down and keep repeating the process, and it'll eventually build up the soil into a good rich loam. I mean, the soil doesn't seem that bad underneath, but it's riddled with weeds because of never having been covered. That's what I'm going to have to do. So right now I'm going to go get the straw and put that over in a layer that's about 4 to 6 inches thick. So I've put the straw down on the bed, probably closer to 4 inches than 6 inches. So I'll probably have to come back in the late winter, early spring, apply another layer to it, because this will get compacted down. But what I'm doing now is just to keep it from blowing away, I'm wetting it down. So once I think this is sufficiently wet, this bed will be done for the year. And then once those vegetables get harvested, probably early winter, I'll do the same thing over there, and so forth. This took about 3/4 of a bale, 2/3 maybe, of straw. It's not that expensive, but it is an expense. So I might just end up using ground up leaves that I collect this fall. I drive around my neighborhood and pick up the bags of leaves that are left out at the curb. It's nice someone does the work for you, but I do take them back home and run them over with my lawnmower. Makes them a little bit finer and they break down a little bit easier and faster. I'm surprised I'm the only one down at the community garden on this Labor Day weekend, or maybe it's not so surprising that no one else is down here this weekend, but I don't have to feel self-conscious being in front of the camera and talking to you guys. But if you want to see what we were doing in the garden last week, check out this video right here, and then subscribe and hit that notification bell, and that way you'll be able to follow along in the progress on all of our vegetables as we try to grow a supermarket in our own backyard and down at the community garden plot. Okay, thanks for watching.